Hey, this is Pastor Ryan. Thanks for joining us for this week's Sunday Preview. Our passage today is Matthew chapter 22, verses 34 through 40. And we see this passage starts out with a contrast using the word but, and then the time indicator, saying that the Pharisees heard that he had silenced the Sadducees. And so they gathered together. And one of them is a Pharisee, who also is apparently a lawyer. He asked Jesus a question in order to test him. He started off the question by recognizing a title for Jesus, saying, "Teacher, which is the great commandment in the law?" In the English, we see a definite article pointing to not just any law, but perhaps the law of Moses. So Jesus replies, noting one command, to love. The object of the command is the Lord your God, and that love is given three descriptions: all your heart, all your soul, and all your mind. He describes the commandment in two ways. It is the great commandment, and it's the first commandment. It appears he uses the same term as what was asked in the question. But he continues with a second. He notes that it is like it, giving a comparison, giving the command again to love. But the object of this command is your neighbor, and we see the extent as yourself. Jesus then summarizes, saying that on these two commandments, all the law and the prophets depend. Here, it looks like he has expanded the answer to include not just the law, but also the category of the prophets. Before we go, we want to take a broader look at the text. Who is involved in this passage? The Pharisees, Sadducees, a lawyer. They talk about God, they talk about their neighbor, and they talk about the prophets. What is going on? It looks like a lawyer, who is also a Pharisee, is testing Jesus by asking him a question, and then Jesus gives an answer. And it's interesting that we see in this passage there is no reaction described by Matthew. We see the time marker that Matthew gives us, showing us that this is right after Jesus silenced the Sadducees during the Passion Week. We've seen that in Matthew chapter 21, it appears this set of exchanges is in the temple. And when we get to the why question, we have to be careful, because that borders on interpretation rather than just on observation. But just looking briefly at the text, this passage may be here to demonstrate Jesus is competent when questioned even by a lawyer. It might be here to help the reader see that Jesus has a true understanding of the law and that he fulfilled it. And it also might be here to demonstrate the persistence or the extent of Jesus' questioning. He doesn't just get briefly questioned, he gets extensively scrutinized. And we have some questions before we go. One thing I'm interested in is, why is a lawyer sent to question him? Is it significant that Matthew tells us that it's a lawyer instead of just a Pharisee? I'm also curious as to why one commandment with two objects is listed as two commandments. Is it to show how closely related they are, or to show how distinct they are? And finally, I'm curious as to why Matthew doesn't give a reaction in this passage. Thanks for joining us for the Sunday Preview. We hope this spurs on your thinking and prepares you for our time together on Sunday morning. God's blessings on your week.